All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Emily. I'm the chef and coordinator here at New York-Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital. And it's my great honor to wish you all a very happy and most importantly, healthy new year. I'm so pleased that we got through 2020 and I am really looking forward to what I know will be a better year. So I'm really excited to kickstart this year with all of you with our first class of the year, Kickstart the New Year with Healthy Recipes. I put this packet together thinking about how, often we tend to overindulge a little bit during the holidays, myself included. It's a time where there's a plethora of abundance and treats if we're lucky. And certainly January, we might be feeling a little heavy from all of that. So this class is designed to help you sort of understand how detoxification works in the body, what toxins are, as well as some very, very simple, healthy recipes to kind of get you cleansing in a way that is health supportive and doesn't put too much stress on your body. So that's sort of our goal and mission with this class today. For those of you that are new to our programs, welcome. And just a reminder, we usually have someone who is moderating the chat and reading me your questions, but today that person got pulled away. And so she had to run off and do another job. So we are on our own today, meaning that if you have a question, very simply unmute yourself and you can ask your question. And then when you're done and I've responded, mute yourself again, just to make sure that we don't have too much background or feedback noise. So thank you all for tuning in. Happy, healthy New Year. And with that, I'd like to begin with a few of the recipes that we'll be making. The first is a simple miso soup. For those of you that aren't familiar with miso soup, it's very easy to make. You start by making what's called a dashi, which is a type of broth that's very flavorful and very cleansing. And then you make the miso soup using miso paste. Can be challenging to find miso paste. This is what it looks like. Has this wonderful salty kind of umami flavor. I use this in my salad dressings. I use it over salmon before I roast my salmon in the oven. I use it in soup. It's anywhere where you want like a nice salty umami flavor, you can use miso paste. The wonderful thing about miso paste is that it is a fermented product, meaning that it has wonderful probiotic qualities. So it's very gut supportive, health supportive. So we'll get into a little bit more of that later. So we're going to be making a miso soup. We're also going to be making a steamed beet salad with a sesame ginger miso dressing. And the third recipe is a daikon and carrot salad. Now, if you can't find daikon, which is a kind of radish, that's absolutely fine. I couldn't find it today, so we're going to be using your regular old run-of-the-mill radishes, which I found over at Stop and Shop. So all of our ingredients, you can find them either at Stop and Shop or ShopRite, or there's the new, I think it's called Apple Farm, that's over in Cortland, that's new, but they have a lot of wonderful Asian products if you're interested. And that could be a good place to find a lot of these things. So with that, before I get started, does anybody have any questions? And then we'll jump right in with the miso soup.
I just went to this is Lynn, and I just went to the Apple Farm yesterday, and it's on Welcher Avenue in Buchanan. Yep. It's very big, a lot of vegetables and fruits. So if you go early, there's not many people there, so it was pretty safe.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lynn. I couldn't quite remember where it was, so I really appreciate that. Thank you. All right, everybody.
Emily? Hi.
Yes, hello.
Tina. You keep using the phrase umami. What does that mean?
Oh, Christina, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So for the longest time, it was believed that we only had the sense of taste that could taste sour, sweet, bitter, salty, and that was it. But we later found that our taste buds have certain receptors specifically for umami taste. So it's just another way, essentially, of saying savory. So it's not just salty, it's more of like a deeper, richer kind of like almost like a caramelized salty flavor. So it's a flavor that you might find from seared mushrooms or meat or miso or tomato paste or shellfish. Like those all have that really deep kind of briny, salty savoriness. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about umami. It's the taste that was only sort of discovered, or rather named, I think it was back in the 1990s or so. But yeah, that's what I'm referring to. So thank you. And I'll take any other questions and then I'll jump in. Okay. All right, everyone. So with that, let's start with our miso soup. So in order to make miso soup, you have to first make what's called dashi. Dashi is a specific broth made from bonito flakes. So these are my bonito flakes. And bonito flakes are actually dried tuna, skipjack tuna that's been dried and kind of made into these flakes. It looks a bit like fish food, I won't lie, but it's kind of like this flaky, this kind of like flaky fish. And essentially it's used a lot in Japanese cuisine to make stocks and broths and give them this nice, rich flavor. The other food that I'm going to be using today that you might not be familiar with is kombu. Kombu is also known as kelp. They're interchangeable, same thing, kombu and kelp. So both bonito flakes and kelp, or kombu, are used to make dashi, which is the foundational broth to make miso soup. So if you didn't have kombu and kelp and bonito flakes, you can make your miso soup just using a store-bought broth that you enjoy. If you like, mushroom broth, or you like vegetable broth, if you have a broth that you like that's from a box, that's perfectly fine if you just want to make that substitution. But the advantage of making your own dashi is that you are featuring seaweed. Now, seaweed is an amazing natural detoxifier. It enhances the body's ability to break down unwanted chemicals and heavy metals and remove them from the body more easily. So how incredible is that? Seaweeds can detoxify your body, break down unwanted chemicals, and help your body to escort them out through natural channels. So that's one of the reasons we love to use seaweeds. Not everybody enjoys seaweed, so that's why I like to use it sort of in a broth, because it's a little bit milder and you don't have so much of a strong taste. We're also going to be using nori. This you can find over at Stop and Shop, no problem. So this is actually really a nice snack. If you are someone that likes to snack on potato chips or anything like crunchy and salty, you can snack on this nori. It comes roasted, and it's really a nice snack. And this is, again, seaweed, which is a natural detoxifier. All right, so any questions about that before I jump into our dashi? I know a couple of people are asking questions in the chat. Just to remind everybody that we do not have our moderator today, so if you have a question, unmute yourself and then you can ask it. If not, I'm recording this program and I will read your question at the end of class and I will email you back the answer. So I hope that works out for everybody today. All right, so with the dashi, the first step was to cook the kombu or kelp, right? That kombu or kelp that I just showed you, when you put it in water, it expands and it looks like this. So you cook it in this, in the water, just for, cold water and kombu, barely simmer. You don't need to boil it, barely simmer it. Then you remove the kombu and you add your bonito flakes, which, as I mentioned earlier, is the dried tuna. You let that simmer for about 8 minutes, turn it off, and then let it cool for 5 minutes. That's your dashi. It's really, really simple, and it's the flavor base for almost every Japanese dish. So here's what it looks like. And now I'm going to strain out those bonito flakes, and this is going to be our broth for the miso soup. So you can see it's got this is all the tuna, right? The bonito flakes. Bonito flakes, again, are dried tuna. And I'll give this little pot a rinse, and we can use this for the soup. All right. So we're going to strain that out. We're going to discard that. You can even use a little spoon or something to press out any extra moisture from your stock. Has this nice clear color, right? So anytime you're making stocks or broths, you always want to use cold water. The cold water will make sure that you don't have a muddled kind of broth, you have a nice, clear, beautiful, clear broth liquid. All right, so this is our dashi. We're going to heat that up. Just going to turn on the top back here. All right, and again, we don't need to boil this. We just need to bring it to a simmer. So why am I starting with miso soup when I'm talking about detox and cleanse and, you know, starting the new year with healthy recipes? Well, miso soup is very traditional in Japanese cuisine as a way to start off a meal. It's great to have soup. I always love to have soup at any start of a meal because it forces you to really sit down, slow down. You have to eat slowly. It kind of prepares your digestion with all the warm fluids coming in. So it's a really great way to kind of get yourself prepared for a meal. And it really just forces us almost to be present and mindful with our food, because you can't just eat a miso soup very quickly because it's too hot. So with that, one important thing to note is that you should never boil your miso. Miso, again, as I mentioned, miso is, it's made from soybeans, and it is a fermented food. So there are some wonderful probiotic qualities in this fermented food. And those probiotics, again, are going to support your gut, going to support your system, and keep you going. So we're going to get started here. We'll bring that up. And as soon as that gets warm, we'll whisk in the miso. Now, the trick with miso is that if you just plop it into the pot, you can end up with clumps of miso. So I'm going to show you a trick that I actually learned in Japan, which is that you can take your miso. This ladle's very big. Maybe I'll find a smaller one. Oh, this one's almost just as big. But you can take your miso, put it in the ladle, and kind of dip a little bit of the broth in it, and use a fork or a chopstick, if you're in Japan, to kind of swish it up. And that way it will integrate slowly into your liquid, and you won't have clumps of miso kind of floating around. All right, the other food that we're going to be using in our dish today is, this is soft or silken tofu. Right, silken tofu. So again, a lot of soy-based products. I know there's a lot of controversy over soy. I try to only use organic soy whenever possible. That way it has no genetically modified compounds in it. And this is our silken or soft tofu. Silken is a bit softer than soft. So this is very, very silky. So we're going to be using that for our little bit of protein. Very easy to digest. If for whatever reason you can't enjoy soy products, maybe you have an intolerance, or you just don't like it, or you have a breast cancer receptive positive gene or something like that, certainly you can leave out the tofu. You can throw in different vegetables, shiitake mushrooms, carrots, radishes, any kind of vegetable you want to slice very thinly and simmer in the broth is going to be delicious. So you can certainly do that instead. All right, so as it's kind of coming up to heat, we have a couple other things we're adding in here. Our beautiful scallions. And again, just very, very thin slices on your scallions. All right. You can see here, I'm kind of rocking the knife, right? Rocking and rolling. So I'm inching my left hand back as I slice through with my right. This is a good thing to just practice, practice slowly. And then as you get more comfortable, you can start to go a little bit faster, but just start slow, push through, pull back, push through, pull back, and get that rocking motion. Over time, you'll become more efficient. And then I always mention this to my students here. You can put these in some water by a windowsill and they'll start to grow back, which is a beautiful thing, especially in the winter when I feel like there's nothing growing around us. So it's nice to have some scallions growing in your windowsill. All right, so we've got those ready. Let's get our tofu ready. And we're just gonna do a few cubes here. You don't have to do, overdo it. Less is more with miso soup. You just want a couple of things kind of floating around. All right. There we go. It's hard to cut the silken one because it does kind of fall apart, but that's okay. So silken tofu, if you don't use it all in your miso soup, you can throw it into your smoothies. It's really good. Blend it up. You can throw it in the freezer, and then anytime you want to use some of it in a smoothie, you can put it in. How else do I use silken tofu? Actually, I had sort of an epiphany as I was preparing for this class. This could be thrown into the beet salad as well. So I'll show you how I do that. Put that off to the side. So as that's heating up, we're going to start by getting our miso in there. So I can feel, you can even dip a finger in there. It's not too hot, right? It's like a hot bath, all right? But you don't want it to boil. So we can add, let's see here, we can add either a little fork or a whisk or back of a spoon, whatever you got. All right, and we'll pop that into our ladle and just bring in a little bit of the broth, right? So I can show you this up close. So I've got just a little bit of the hot broth in there, and I'm just gonna kind of stir that in first, and then I'm gonna integrate it with the rest of the liquid. So you just kind of want to create like a warm slurry, add a little more broth as you go. And this is it. You're pretty much done with your miso soup. It's really a lot easier than people think. It's very, very flavorful. Great way to start off a meal, including natural detoxifiers like seaweed. All right, so now it's nice, homogeneous mixture. So it's going to go from being a clear broth to being more of a cloudy broth. All right. And I have this turned way down because, again, you don't want your miso to boil. It's going to disturb the integrity of the miso. Let's plop in our little cubes. Put our scallions in there. We can, again, chop up some of this beautiful nori, which is another kind of seaweed. There's so many different seaweeds. It's really remarkable. There's kombu, which is also called kelp, nori, wakame, arame, hijiki. We really don't use hardly any of them in our cooking, but it's such a healthy food for us to enjoy, especially because it's a rich natural source of iodine. So here we go. You can just cut this in half. And you can just cut this up however you'd like to, you know, kind of create long strips. So now I've kind of cut this into 4. This is nice also if you buy nori. Also, the great thing about seaweed is it keeps in your pantry for forever. I mean, it comes from the sea, and it has a lot of you know, naturally occurring preservatives, and so it keeps for a really long time in your pantry. So I've had seaweed in my pantry for a year, and it's still good. So I'm just kind of going for a nice rough chop on this, and we'll kind of break that up. Okay, and toss that in. All right, so our miso soup is done. I'll take any questions now if anyone has about that specific recipe, and then we can jump on to the next. I'll introduce you to the remaining recipes for today. Anyone have any questions?
Emily, I have a question. It's Deborah.
Hi there, Deborah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us.
I wanted to know, can you freeze miso paste?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Deborah. You can freeze miso paste. I know a lot of people have concerns about disturbing the quality of the probiotics when you freeze yogurt or miso or anything like that. It doesn't kill them, just makes them really sleepy. So it won't kill off anything. You can freeze miso. That's a great question. But you don't have to, because miso is really, really salty, naturally occurring salt from the soybeans mixed together and fermented. So I've had miso in my refrigerator for a year and it's still good. So I don't think it's something that you would have to freeze from like a food safety standpoint.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Hi, this is
Hi.
Diane. How long do you leave the miso soup cooking once you put everything in?
Hi, Diane. So once everything's in there, you can turn it off. It's done. It doesn't need to cook. So I'll just show you everything is cooked here. Right. So the scallions are nice and bright green. Right. Your miso is integrated. So again, everything is already cooked, right? You've made your dashi. You're just bringing your broth or your dashi up to a near simmer, and that's when you can add the miso, just so that it's nice and warm, but so it's not so hot that it kills everything. Okay.
Hi, Emily. This is Janet. Emily.
Hi, Janet.
And this is my question. You just said that the miso is kind of salty. Well,
Yes.
is it also the other ingredients, the seaweed? So does it make it, if you're watching your high blood pressure, would that be a good thing to have this or not really?
Yeah, Janet, so that's a really important question. Thank you for asking that and for your mindfulness in your relationship to sodium and salt. So certainly if you have high blood pressure or you're trying to avoid salt, like I said, miso and seaweed, these are salty foods, naturally occurring salty foods, because the seaweed comes from the ocean. So it just has salt naturally, and miso too. Well, miso comes from soy, but there's salt in it. So certainly, Janice, it is something you would want to just check in, maybe consult with your physician and see if it's okay for you to have a miso soup on occasion. Maybe it becomes something that you have once a month. Maybe it's not an everyday food, but it's something you can enjoy once in a while. Great question. Thank you. All right, everybody. So with that, I'm going to jump to our next recipe, which is the steamed beets. I love beets. I find that they're really wonderful and cleansing. They certainly are fibrous, so they help to kind of move things along if you're feeling a little sluggish in that way. So I just steam these beets in. I put some water in my pot here. You can see now the water's all red. I put some water in the pot, and then this has holes in it. Set that right in there and pop a lid on it and just let that boil and steam. They're usually done in about 20 to 30 minutes. It actually depends on the size of your beet. These beets are pretty small, so they were done in about 30 minutes or so. I'm going to glove up because otherwise I'm going to have red hands for the rest of my life. But certainly you don't need to wear gloves when you're working with beets. I just find it's a little bit easier, especially because when you take the skins off, you can just rub them right off. So these beets have cooled down, and look at this. The skins come right off just by kind of rubbing them. So here you go. You can leave the skins on if you like. If you've washed them really, really well, you can keep the skins on. They certainly will have lots of fiber and some minerals and a distinct earthy quality if you leave the skins on. So just keep that in mind. I prefer them without the skins, but if you like the skins, absolutely go for it. It is your beet, and you can choose. All right, so we've got the skins off, and I'm just going to cut these into chunks. So we're using red beets today, but of course you could use what are those, candy stripe beets? I always forget the names of those. Candy stripe beets or golden beets. Certainly the different beets and different colors are simply a different expression of antioxidants. So what does that mean? It basically means that red beets are going to give you more lycopene, which is the red pigment, versus the other beets, which won't have as much. So it's just a different kind of expression of antioxidant. All right, but they're all very good for you. Beets, the carbs in beetroots are mainly simple sugars, but because beets are so high in fiber, they're a really good source of folate and potassium, as well as iron, and even a little vitamin C. It may actually help to lower blood pressure. So there you go, Janice. There's your antidote to the miso soup. Have more beets.
Thanks.
Yeah. So there are the beets. And we're going to add in a couple other things here. We're going to be throwing in, I toasted some sesame seeds. How beautiful, golden toasted sesame seeds. You can buy them toasted, or you can toast them yourself. Just heat up a little pan. Nothing needs to go in there, just some heat. And over time, gentle heat under the sesame seeds, they'll get nice and golden like this. So I'm going to use a mortar and pestle today, and we're going to kind of crush those up. And this is going to go into, this is probably way more sesame seeds than I need. Let's do a little bit less. All right. Although they are very delicious. So we're going to kind of crunch those up and grind them a little bit. And we're going to add, again, some miso to this for our live probiotic active cultures. So about a tablespoon of that is going to go right in. We're also going to add one of my favorite sort of detox foods. And I'll talk a little bit more about what is detox and all that before we go today. So no worries. So we're going to peel up some ginger. Always a reminder for everybody, you can store ginger in the freezer if you bought a big hunk of it. And then just, peel it first, put it in your Ziploc bag, and then put it in your freezer. So many of you already know that trick, but this one is fresh because I forgot to freeze it. But it's fresh. It came today. And then we're just going to take our little, this is like a little zester or grater, and just grate that right in. So this is going to go into our dressing. It's really, really flavorful. For those of you that don't use a lot of ginger, again, I love it. I think it's not only a great food for digestion, even may help to combat nausea. And you guys may be familiar, right? Anytime you had a tummy ache, maybe you had a parent that suggested you try some ginger ale, right? That's why. The ginger has wonderful anti-nausea properties. All right, so we've got that in there. We're going to kind of grind that ginger and miso paste in with the sesame. It's going to kind of clump up. And then we're going to add our liquids, which are rice vinegar and avocado oil. Now you want to use an oil that has a neutral taste, one that's not very strong, because you've got all these wonderful flavor components in here already. So I'm going to mix those two in with this. This is going to form our kind of thick, chunky dressing. One note on rice vinegar. A lot of rice vinegars have sugar added to them, so just make sure you read that label well, that it doesn't say, it doesn't say that it has any corn syrup or anything like that in it. So this is our kind of thick sesame miso dressing. We're going to toss that right over our beef, getting most of that off of here. And then we're going to add some cilantro, and this is done. So why did I choose this recipe today for a healthy recipes to start your new year? Because it contains the beets, which are really great for cleansing, as well as the ginger, and what we're about to add, cilantro. So those of you that are not fans of cilantro, it's okay. I know that there's a gene out there that makes you hate it. It's not your fault. But if you do like cilantro, try to include it as much as you can in your diet because it is a powerful food. Cilantro has wonderful antioxidants as well as immune boosting qualities. It's anti-inflammatory. It helps to detoxify much like the seaweed by getting rid of heavy metals, by going into your body and binding to heavy metals and drawing them out through the digestive process. So how powerful is that? All right, so we're going to toss some cilantro in here. Just going to take off the really thick stemmy bits and leave everything else on there. Just kind of bunch it up. Let me move this back so you guys can see my board. And we'll just give this a nice rough chop. Goes right in with the beets, right? So you can make this recipe ahead of time. Certainly you can leave your beets marinating in your dressing, but I would leave, I would chop the cilantro up at the last minute and serve it fresh on top of the beets. Just because the cilantro can get a little slimy over time, and it's nice. It's kind of a nice fresh boost of flavor in at the end. So that's just one recommendation. If you're going to make this recipe ahead of time, certainly you can, but just add the cilantro at the end. Same with the miso soup. You can make that ahead of time. Just again, when you heat it up and you bring it to heat, make sure you don't boil it. That's very important. All right, this smells so good. We've got our healthy beet salad. And again, it's really, really going to support you going into your new year. So there's beet salad. I'll plate that for you. I also had a moment of inspiration in preparing for this class. I figured you can actually use some of that silken tofu, and I'll show you what I was thinking. Right now, you can just take some of it and throw it on top and kind of mash and mix that in if you wanted to add a little protein to this dish. So that way you added some extra, just a little bit extra protein and calcium in as well. Kind of using up more of that silken tofu. It almost looks like feta cheese. There you go. That's what it looks like. Smells really good. All right, everybody. And then for our third and final recipe, we're going to be making a really quick daikon and carrot salad. So I really like this one because it's mostly like marinating the vegetables so that they take on a lot of flavor. And you can, again, make this ahead of time. So very simply, I'm making a big mess today. Apparently I've forgotten how to keep my kitchen clean in 2021. All right, so simply we're going to just start by heating up our vinegar. This again uses the rice vinegar, unsweetened. We're gonna add a little pinch of sugar to it and a little pinch of salt, and just kind of heat it together until it is dissolved. So here's our vinegar, here's our sugar. Mix that together and kind of form a quick kind of brine solution almost. Our salt is gone in. Okay, and let's get our veggies ready while we're doing that. All right, I don't like having a dirty cutting board. It's very disturbing to me. All right, here we go. That's better. Of course, when you cook with beets, everything's gonna turn red, so be prepared for that. All right, I have a mandolin here. You can use that or you can use a knife, whatever you prefer. And for this one, just going to peel my carrot. This is a very traditional, again, Japanese salad, very light. And you can make this ahead of time, store it in your refrigerator, and you've got your daikon or radish and carrot salad. Anytime you're eating something that's a little bit heavy, you ever notice, anytime you order a burger, they always give you a pickle with it? Well, there's a reason for that, right? Pickled foods help us to digest our food. So we're going to similarly make sort of like a quick pickle. And this you can just keep in your refrigerator and have it a little bit at the end of a meal. It's really going to help enhance your digestion. All right. Any questions? I know I'm going kind of fast today.
Emily, I have a question. It's Rosaria. How are you?
Hi, Rosaria. I'm well. How are you?
Good. The avocado oil, I heard something disturbing that some report that they said that there actually was no avocado in avocado oil in many that they tested. I can't remember what I was watching. It was like a Consumer Reports or something. Have you ever heard of that? Or like, is there a brand that, that you prefer?
Yeah, Rosaria, that's upsetting to hear. Certainly, I have not heard that in regards to avocado oil. And certainly, when you look at the ingredients here, it just says avocado oil. So I'm going to have to look into that a little bit further. I'm not terribly surprised, only because unfortunately, a lot of our foods are mislabeled. It can be difficult to actually know where things come from. So something that says olive oil might be a mix of 3 different olives from all over the world. And, as we know, it's very likely that could be the case for other foods as well, simply because things aren't traced that well and marked that well. So I think my long, short answer to this is it's always best if you can to know your food providers, know your farmers, know your oil makers, know your vinegar shakers, whatever you're buying. If you can get to know the people that are making it, then you have a better chance, hopefully, of getting a really pure, beautiful product. But certainly, it's a problem. Our food system is not the most transparent. So yeah, I hope that you find some that you like. Thank you. All right, so here's our carrot is mandolin. Let's do our radish. I'm just going to do this with my knife. I find it's a little bit easier than that mandolin. That mandolin I bought for $10 at Stop and Shop. It's not the best, but certainly there are better out there. So there's some radish. And this is pretty much it. We're just going to pour our solution right over. Maybe let me do one more. This radish is really beautiful. Look at that beautiful purple color. We're going to add this right in. I'm leaving the skins on for the radishes. I wash them well. Carrot skins tend to be kind of bitter. So I prefer, from a culinary standpoint, I prefer to peel them. From a health standpoint, of course, there's lots of great nutrition in the skin. So if you want to leave it on, absolutely can. All right, so there is our carrot and radish mix. And we're almost done with our third recipe. We'll pour our little brine solution over this. All right, and you just let this sit, for 10, 15 minutes or so. It's going to take on a really great flavor. You can serve this, as a little kind of little end to your meal, or you can keep it in your refrigerator. It keeps for, it's basically packed in vinegar, so it keeps for a while. A while meaning like a month or longer. So you might start to lose a little bit of a crunch, but yeah, it keeps for a long time. And then if you want, I have some nice fresh basil here. You have the option of kind of rolling this up and serving it with a little garnish of basil on top. So this is called chiffonade. When you roll it up and you cut it, makes what's called a chiffon, which in French means a little rag. Right, so you have your nice little chiffonade. Basil prefers to be cut this way. If you chop and really handle your basil aggressively, it's going to bruise, it's going to leak. It's not going to be sort of integral and beautiful like it is here. All right, everyone. So let me plate these up, and then I'm going to walk you through, in the time that we have left, a few things that I put together for you in your handouts about detox, because it's a really interesting process. So there's our beautiful beet salad, our miso soup that you already saw, and our little carrot and daikon or radish salad, which you can just have sort of as a little side with some basil on top. This almost looks like something you would get in a sushi restaurant, right? All right, everyone. So with that, I just briefly want to touch upon kickstarting the new year with healthy recipes. I think going into 2021, it's a great time to reflect on what you want to release and what you want to embrace and create. So simple, attainable goals that are tied to your values and that are tied to your vision for your best self, those are the ones you really want to focus on. So whether it's just to learn a few new healthy recipes, congratulations, you've accomplished your goal. But if you want to learn a little bit more about detox, that's what I'm going to go into next. So there are different kinds of toxins. Maybe we overindulge this holiday season, but first, what is a toxin? I know all over, we're going to see advertisements for juice cleanses and all these different kinds of things to help us reset and reboot our system. I'm not a huge fan of all of those things, mostly because none of them are scientifically backed or proven to be health supportive. If you've done something like that in the past and it's worked for you, by all means, consult your physician and give it a try if you'd like. But mostly, there is a very simple way to detox our body that works with our body's natural rhythms. And that's what I like to focus on. So there's two categories of toxins you may have heard of. Some are endogens, which are produced in the body, and some are I can never say these words, exogenous, which is produced outside of the body and brought into the body. So an example being through our food, our environment, household items, cleaning agents, things like that. Toxins can also be found in additives in our food. I included a list of those on the first page here. So there's all kinds of additives that are associated with health concerns. These are things we should try to minimize in our diet and move away from those additives so that our body doesn't need to, attack and detoxify them. So the good news is we detox naturally. Our body is doing it all the time, which is just amazing. If you choose a cleansing protocol, like I mentioned, it should be slow and gentle. The body doesn't like to move drastically and do things drastically. So the easiest way, truly the easiest way to detox your body is to breathe well, drink good, clean water, and eat a balanced diet. Now that's where there can be a little bit of, well, what's a balanced diet? And is it juices or is it not? And then the final piece, which is essential to detoxing your body and helping to reset, is sleeping. Sleep is when we do most of our detoxification processes occur in our sleep. So it's very important to try to get good quality sleep as well. All right, everyone. So I'm just going to turn to a few things in here. We talked about what toxins are. You have a little bit more of that on your first page. I included a few things, the do no harm detox. So I included an option to breathe a full 3 3-part breath, which is to inhale for 4 counts, hold for 5 counts, and exhale for 6 counts. Now, I included these counts as a general rule, a general rule of thumb. But if you find that you prefer to inhale for 3 counts and hold for 2 and exhale for 4, it doesn't matter as long as you do a pattern that works for you and your body. Now, another thing that I'm going to encourage you to pay attention to is what part of your body are you breathing into? So are you breathing up here in your chest? Or are you breathing down here in your belly? In our society, we are taught to zip up and tighten up and, breathe up here. I think in 2021, we can all just let it out, right? So breathe into your stomach, breathe into that full deep breath all the way into your stomach. That kind of a breath, breathing into your stomach, is going to activate what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps to calm your body down and it prepares it to rest and digest food. So slow, deep breaths into the stomach, very, very helpful for detox. Okay, we talked about that and different things to prepare for your detox, understanding the different types of toxins, where they might be hiding in your environment. Is it coming in through your food? Are you exposed to toxins through the cleaning agent that you're using? Are you standing in front of a bus stop every day and you smell those bus fumes? Think about the areas in your life where toxins might be creeping in and try to eliminate as much as possible those external sources of pollution wherever possible. Of course, it's not always possible, right? All right, and then proper nutrition. So choosing foods that are rich in nutrients, easy to digest for you. That's going to be different for everybody. Some people have no problem digesting lentils. Other people, it's a lot harder. So certainly something that's easy to digest for you. Eating a good diet with plenty of fresh, wholesome foods like we do here in our teaching kitchen, avoiding eating excess fats, specifically saturated fats. We know some fat can be good for us. Avoiding refined sugars, avoiding foods high in additives and preservatives. We know a lot of these things already, right? This is pretty common sense stuff, but it's hard to, when the rubber meets the road, it's a little bit hard to put into practice. And then whenever possible, substituting organically raised animals and fruits and vegetables when possible. I acknowledge that it can be expensive. It's not always possible. So I'm going to refer you to a wonderful resource, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA puts out a list every year. You can find it online. It's the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. These are the Dirty Dozen, the 12 fruits and vegetables that should be consumed organically if possible. And then the Clean 15 are the ones that you don't. You might be buying organic cauliflower, for example, thinking that you have to buy everything organic. But perhaps cauliflower has naturally occurring pesticides that push the bugs away and it doesn't need to be sprayed. So just check on that list. I can also, I'll also include it in your feedback survey at the end of the program. I'll include it there as well so everybody can find it. All right, everybody. And then whatever you decide to do for yourself, just remember this year and in all years, the body takes time. It's going to take time to slowly cleanse and slowly get back on track if you've perhaps overindulged over the holiday season, which it happens. We all do, right? So how do we get back on the horse slowly, gently, in a way that's not so aggressive that it's going to throw your body into a loop? A lot of people will jump into a really violent juice cleanse or something like that and then get migraines and headaches and terrible, terrible things like that. So certainly slow and steady, something that is attainable and feasible for you and your lifestyle, that's going to be the way to go. All right? Okay, everyone. And then I included our organs of detoxification, just in case you did not know that you have an amazing body that is doing amazing things all the time. In case you did not know, this is the list of organs of detoxification: the lymphatic system, your kidneys, liver, gallbladder, lungs, skin, large intestine, small intestine. All of these organs are working tirelessly to constantly keep your body healthy and strong. All right, so you have your list here. I also included some foods that are specifically supportive to those systems. So for example, what did I include here? For example, the liver is really supported by beets. Another reason that we're using our beets today. The lungs is really supported by ginger. One of the reasons we have ginger in our recipes. So you have a little bit more information about this in your recipe packet, and I'll make sure that you have this with your feedback survey as well. So it's 4:15, so I'll take any questions now, and then we'll close the class. So thank you, everybody. Anyone have a question for me?
Hi, Emily. Happy New Year. This is Patricia. I have a
Hi,
quick.
Patricia.
I was a little surprised when I saw natural flavor as something we have to be cautious about. Why?
Yeah. So Patricia, thank you for highlighting that one. So unfortunately, natural flavors means nothing. It does not mean necessarily that it's coming from nature. So the food industry uses this catch-all term to kind of disguise and hide things in our food that may not be so good for us. So when I see natural flavor, that's kind of a red light in my mind. An alarm bell goes off, and I know that can be a dangerous substance. So that's just something to be aware of. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you'd like, you can go to their website. I included it at the bottom here. It's the Environmental Working Group. So they have a whole list. If you really wanted to get into what's in your makeup, what's in your shampoos, what's in your sunscreens, they have a great resource, Environmental Working Group. You can certainly go to their website for more information. Thank you, Patricia.
Emily,
Anybody else? Yeah.
yes, Emily, this is Maurice. I was just wondering, hi. Do you do anything with the water that when you boil the beets? Do you use it again, or you just throw it out?
I love that question, Louise. I do not use it again. If you were a super health warrior and you felt like drinking it or putting it in a smoothie or using it in a soup, you can absolutely use it. Just make sure that your beets don't have any dirt on them, because if you steam them with dirt on them, then that dirt's going to end up in your liquid at the bottom, and then you're really not going to like it. So you can enjoy it if you enjoy it. You certainly can, but you don't have to.
Yeah, I've always wondered about it because my sister says she uses it, and she also uses the beet leaves and the stem.
Yeah. Oh, the leaves are fantastic. Yes. So beet leaves and beet stems, they can be used just like spinach, kale, Swiss chard, same family. Beautiful leafy greens, high in magnesium, iron, potassium, great thing to enjoy. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Great questions, everybody, and thank you for your seamless muting and unmuting. Great job. All right. Going once, going twice. Oh,
No, I'm sorry. This is Patricia again. Under kidneys, it says, I'm just a word I don't understand. Identifies and filers everything? What is?
It could be a typo, Patricia. Maybe.
I'm just trying to figure out.
Maybe I have it. Maybe. Filters.
Filters.
It's supposed to be filters. Yes, thank you. Thank you for catching my typo. Filters. So yeah, the kidneys are amazing. Kidneys are the body's filtration system, right? So everything goes right through the kidneys and filters right through. Yeah. All right, everybody. So with that, if you have any further questions, you can send me an email. I'm going to send you all a feedback survey. And thank you for honoring me with your presence in this class, for joining our first class of 2021. We've got lots more coming up this week. Tomorrow, we're going to have Dr. Park joining us to talk about self-care habits for 2021. I'm really excited about that class. We're going to talk about science-backed ideas to help you care for yourself. Really important. Whether you had a rough previous year or you know someone else that has, certainly feels free to share that information. And then we have a couple other classes, a plant-based class coming up on Thursday, and more classes coming all through January. So feel free to check our events page online. Feel free to send me an email or call me. I'm happy to guide you through how to find our programs. Thank you to all of you for connecting this afternoon. And I hope you all give these recipes a try, and you can detox your body gently, naturally, breathing all the way. All right. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.